A very predictable day today starts and ends exactly how we predicted. Mitch McConnell's bill died a quick death. Check. Nancy Pelosi debuted the same hairstyle. Check. Americans didn't see a second stimulus check land in their bank account. Check. Steve Mnuchin was nowhere available for comment. Check. Mark Meadows' predictions about when you would get your stimulus check and stimulus package approval within 1 week is incorrect. Check. And ironically, every single person who had talked about you getting second stimulus checks was not available for comment today. Check, check, check. Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Evenings LALATE. Hope you're good and safe. It's a Thursday evening as the Lakers, the NFL, and myself are all on TV at the exact same time. Glad you chose this one instead of the other ones. Let's join and get together as the Purple Power tries to digress and digest everything that went on today in a screwy day, that you still need to remain positive and faithful and focused because a lot of strange things are happening. This is Evenings LA that starts every day at 6:30 approximately with the check, and then EIDL or a special right after that. Tonight it will be EIDL. But let me get to the incredible details about what unfolded today, what happened in the hours since afternoon's LLA, and why a new report published minutes ago by a leading bank and its analysts shows why the situation is so screwy, in my New York accent, about a situation that should not be that complicated. Let's get to the incredible details. A second stimulus check was not debuted in a bill introduced by Mitch McConnell to the Senate 48 hours ago, after nearly several weeks of being promised by Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary to Donald Trump, Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff to Donald Trump, Larry Kudlow, economist to Donald Trump, Pete Navarro, trade individual for Donald Trump, Mike Pence, Vice President, and, basically everyone, excluding the butler in the White House, had said your second stimulus check was going to be in this package. Well, it debuted. It didn't have it in there. No one liked it, and eventually came for a vote, and it died a quick death. I think, it was canceled faster than, some very bad reality TV shows that debuted recently. So it was gone, and it's gone, and that's it. So are we going to be depressed about it? No. Did we like it? No. Did we ever support this bill? No. So what does that mean going forward about legislative efforts to get you second stimulus checks, FPUC extensions, hazard pay, rent, versus executive order authority going forward? And why is the situation now different than it was just a few weeks ago? And how could it change in the next couple weeks? First, let me get to the details. You need to understand going forward that there's two paths as to how to get your second stimulus checks. And I'm also going to refer to that as second stimulus packages. There is the legislative, and then there's the executive. The executive is really the one that your eyes and ears should be focused on in the next few weeks. That's the executive branch, aka the White House. The president has executive authority to send out second stimulus checks. He has the authority to extend FPUC or LWA. He has the ability to give you other sums of money, so long as it's not in Treasury, so long as he's not taking money out of the Bank of Treasury. He can get that money to you, and he should get the money to you. And as the viewers of this channel have said in comments since this morning, that if he doesn't, no one's going to reelect him. He absolutely has to do it. That's the first part of the equation to understand. The second part is the legislative body. The legislative body is entirely different than the president. That is Congress. They can send out stimulus checks if they agree upon it. But at the moment, there seems to be no ability for these people to agree upon anything, and there's no change in anything. So as I sit here tonight, I am not going to predict anything by these members of Congress or Steve Mnuchin or Nancy Pelosi or the House or the Senate to do anything for stimulus as we sit here on a Thursday. But it could change tomorrow. I mean, it literally could change by the hour. All it takes is a change of methodology and approach to what's going on. But we need to be frank about the situation. Congress does not need stimulus to be passed for Congress's purpose, with the exception of several Republicans who are in the Senate really needed to do something today and did not. And after they did not, Mitch McConnell said, "I think your careers are over." He actually said that. So that's, but the rest of them are not up for re-election. So they really don't care about us. And we don't care about them until, it's the next time around. And then we'll take care of you at the voting polls. So where should your focus be then? Your focus should not be on the House. It should not be on the Senate. It should not be on Nancy. It should not be on Chuck. Your focus, or Mitch, your focus should be on the White House. The White House is ultimately the one that can get this done and has the ability to get it done. But as viewers asked me in a series of really great comments on Afternoons LALATE, which really was very well watched. I think this might be our most watched day in about a month, so thank you for tuning in. Viewers asked, hey, the president keeps on talking about how wonderful the economy is. Will he send out stimulus checks? Here is sort of the two sides of the coin. Viewers understand that this president seems to have an occasion on a Friday night to talk about stimulus. It just seems like every Friday he wants to tweet about stimulus and he wants to do executive orders on Saturday. That's the first thing. Second, the president has always had a yin and yang as to saying the economy is better than it is, but then also being willing to do stimulus. There is a unclear situation with this president as to whether sending out stimulus is a suggestion that the economy is not as good as it needs to be, and that we need to stimulate the economy, and that might be mixed message with his claim that the economy is so wonderful. But by all accounts, as we see here, at least today, it appears that he doesn't have that problem. He can, in one breath, say that the economy is stronger than it really is, but then also still send out stimulus checks. The question is when and why. The why is really the harder question, which I really don't have the answer to. Will he do it because he really wants to? That someone will get to him and he will understand, you have to do this, you're not going to get reelected. When will that Earth to Mars connection, that Vulcan mind melt happen? That is where the purple power really heats in. You need to start the tweets. You need to start the tagging. You need to share this video and tell Mnuchin and Meadows and all those people, get the stimulus checks out by executive order. What is going on here? And that really does interact well. There was a new story out tonight, ironically, that said the social media reactions to what the president does are astronomical numbers across both Facebook and Twitter. So do what you got to do, because it really does make an impact. Now, as to that issue then, is when could he do it and how soon would you see the money? The issue is really not particularly clear, but he has to get this done in the next 2 to 3 weeks. He can't belabor this beyond that, because the point is that basically you would not get the checks until after the election. It doesn't serve his purpose to send you checks after the election. If he has money sitting around, which he does, and he wants to use the checks to help himself get reelected, which he does, then he needs to send out the checks soon, not later, and he needs to get them going. And by all accounts, that is relatively quickly. Now, there's also the other thing that I've not talked about before, and I'll have to talk about it right now, is you don't want to do something right after Mitch implodes like he did today. Today was a debacle, which I don't know why they ever went down this path, but they did. And the president ultimately, because it is his party, it is his political party, probably would not do executive orders, 24 hours after Mitch McConnell implodes. You would wait a little bit and then let things simmer and then do it. Now, there's other things that are really on the burner, which could be interpreted as really good stuff, or could be interpreted as really bad stuff. I think it's good stuff. That is, the president has historically issued things like executive orders because there's other distractions occurring, and that the executive orders focus on something good economically for the economy or for Americans or for businesses and distracts you away from something that is personally hitting him. If there was ever a time to do it, it would be today. The Bob Woodward book has remained front and center for not nearly 24 hours and may continue that way for the next few days. And the issues of the comments about McCain and about the military, those have been hideously bad distractions for him. And the way the president has historically responded to them is by doing things by executive order or economically that focuses the attention away. So it could be that this is exactly the time to do stimulus checks to distract the situation away from that. The other issue that really seems to be very apparent as I sit here tonight is something that has deeply troubled me for several weeks, and that is that when you look at stimulus, there are some people who look at stimulus in a bubble. And until that bubble really bursts for a lot of people, they sometimes don't grasp the severity of the situation. It's unclear if the president has yet burst that bubble. And there's a new report out tonight from Goldman Sachs, which I have in front of me, which is truly, here's that accent again, is truly crazy. The new report from Goldman Sachs says, looking beyond this quarter, we remain upbeat on the economy. On growth, market participants appear to have higher economic pride from the virus resurgence and the fiscal fizzle, and the sequential strength of the data looks great. We continue to expect a vaccine early next year, and the economy is rebounding, and everything looks really wonderful. Okay, the title of the article is, and this is from CNBC. The title of the article is like Goldman Sachs just, gives a report that is contradictory to much of the rest of Wall Street. This report shows how things can become distractive. Until you have people really grasping that there's massive homelessness across the country, until you see people grasping that there's incredible unemployment everywhere, that people's LWA benefits are about to run out, until you grasp that there are severe economic issues at hand, like real estate in New York at the worst vacancy rate in modern day history. Until you grasp a lot of things like that, or 40% of the labor force in California unemployed, you don't really realize how bad we are. It was upwards of late June on this channel when I talked about the financial cliff coming to us in July. And at that time I said, hey, I think we're at the financial cliff. I think we're going over the financial cliff. I think we're crashing over the financial cliff. Well, at this point, we've essentially crashed over the financial cliff. And ironically, some people still think we aren't even near the financial cliff. We're still, in paradise. And that's where it's so important when we talk about stimulus checks that the people who are sending out the stimulus checks understand the situation is so important. The president has the ability to send us stimulus checks, $1,200 individuals, $2,400 married couples. The stimulus checks would land in people's bank accounts about 10 days thereafter. They would be routed out from the agency in which they currently reside. Those funds amount to about $300 billion. The president identified them last Friday. The funds are COVID funds that were dedicated on the first stimulus package were unused. They are outside of Treasury. He does not need the authority of Congress to send the money out. So the money is sitting in a agency, a federal agency like SBA, for a purpose that it was dedicated for. That purpose is now expired. The program has ended. The money's just sitting there. It is unused. The money doesn't revert back to Treasury. It just sort of sits there. He wants to digress the money and repurpose it for the purposes of stimulus checks. He can do it, first, under his executive authority, the president. Second, he also functionally can do it because there's enough money there. I did the calculation 2 days ago on camera where if you take the number of people paid under the CARES Act 1 and divide that into $300 billion, there's enough money to pay $1,200. The number that comes out is $1,848, which I said shows there's enough money to send out $1,200. I did not say gets you a check for $1,800. So we have all that. We don't have clarity on the amount of money that would be for dependents, whether the president would do 500, 1,200. We don't have clarity about the issue of child support. We don't have clarity about the number of people in the household. But we do have clarity that this president has the authority to send out stimulus checks. He has said he is going to send out stimulus checks every single month from the month of June all the way up to the present. So just do it already. What are you waiting for? This president historically has not been someone who sort of barks and doesn't bite. Usually when he says something, he does it. For some reason, for stimulus checks, it has been a promise every single month you have heard, and you have still not seen the stimulus checks. The other great news that I've been reporting for the last 48 hours is that there's enough money to do another round of LWA. There's upwards of $200 to $300 million unaccounted, unused, also for the first stimulus package. Did I say a million? I meant billion. That can also be repurposed for the function of LWA. I don't know if it'll get you to December, but it'll get you a couple more weeks, and certainly it will get you to the election. He can do that as well. How does this work, and how would it happen? Basically, the agency would send out the money and would use the offices of IRS to complement themselves on knowing where you're located and things like that. There's always the reverse possibility that perhaps you would apply and then it would get routed to your bank account. That would be sort of like an application and then a grant back to you. But I don't think it's the second one. All this is very, very keen and very clear. The question is when and will. He certainly can do it. The question is when will he do it, and will he do it? He said he would. He said every single month for 4 months that he's going to do it. So is this the month he's going to do it? Because he really can't do it in the month of October. By then, the checks would arrive after the election. There's a lot of real unclear questions about his mental focus on checks tonight in a week in which he's dealing with Bob Woodward and McCain and all that type of stuff. But ironically, once again, one of the key factors in this entire discussion has fallen apart. Who is that? Journalists. No journalist was able to get a comment from Mark Meadows, Steve Mnuchin, Larry Kudlow, anyone, Mike Pence, about today's results. Preparing for this recording tonight, what I did, as I usually would do, I tried to see if there was any comments from any of those people as to what happened today. No comments. The only comments from Meadows in the last 24 hours are talking about Woodward's book. It seems as though journalists simply don't stay on point when it comes to stimulus. They just seem to go somewhere else. It's like when Kellyanne Conway announced her retirement from the Trump administration several weeks ago. It was also a big day for stimulus news. No one asked about stimulus news. They asked about, is there something going wrong in your personal life? The default to salaciousness seems to be rampant among journalists now, that we really just don't get to the core of issues like stimulus. And it's because of things like that. The new report issued actually earlier today said that if you took all the major broadcast news channels and combined them together, they get less traffic now than some outer wing journalist stations, because they're really not catering a broad scope level of coverage like they used to. Needless to say, that ultimately does impact us, because I don't know what Mark Meadows' position is tonight. I don't know what Steve Mnuchin's position tonight is. All I know is they're not talking. And when people don't talk, we don't know what comes up next. But what does come up next on this channel is EIDL. For what I want you to do for now is to remain focused, positive, and motivated. It's highly likely that this president could do it by executive order. But on a personal note, on an opinion statement, this is an opinion statement, it's not a factual statement, this president has to send out stimulus checks to be reelected. He will literally never survive a reelection bid unless something very strange happens if he doesn't send out stimulus checks. He can get away with sending out stimulus checks but non-extension of LWA, and I don't think I would do it even the reverse. I don't think doing LWA but not stimulus checks would get him reelected. Stimulus checks reach all American households. virtually. It reaches the people who are in need the most, and it reaches the voting demographic. And if you don't give them anything, and they're going into the polls this fall with no stimulus checks after you've promised them for months, do you think they're going to reelect you? Go to the front of the channel and hit that subscribe button. We are delivering breaking news, analysis, and details you're not going to see anywhere else. I try to go into incredible details to find stuff that really bridges the gap between understanding something and mastering the subject, so you understand why the subject is so elaborate. Next, hit the like button. It really helps on the channel. You know, for the subscribe button, if you haven't seen a red button appear next to your name, you're not publicly subscribed. It's called publicly subscribed. Go into the pinned comment of this video, and I have a link to ensure that you have your profile publicly subscribed, so you see a red button. Additionally, if you see a purple heart, yes, purple heart next to your name, that means you're a top commenter on this channel. Congratulations. And it means that I've hit the heart button next to your name because you've posted some really good comments. So that's something we should all aspire for. Also, like the video. It helps the video appear higher in the results. The algorithm likes it. We've been doing really well because you've been really ramping up on the liking. This morning's LALATE video, I think, is at 15,000 likes and 120,000 views. So really, it is helping immensely. Coming up after this is EIDL. I haven't done it for a while, so I'm bringing it back. As always, stay informed, stay motivated, stay focused, and stay positive. And thank you also for your nice personal messages since afternoon's LALATE. I did not really go into incredible detail, but the sky above me right now and most of the entire day since early morning has been blackened and gray from the Bobcat fire here in Southern California. It is so horrific that the soot actually was causing me difficulty with my voice after the recordings on afternoon's LALATE. I'm better now. I'm not near the fires, but I appreciate your comments and concerns. Send your prayers out for the families that are near the fires, and that's called the Bobcat fire. Stay tuned and join me next for EIDL. Take care.